Hello, Patricia here at the Poetry Pcast, kicking back and enjoying some poetry. And I have a question for you. Do you ever have times when you feel you just don't have enough time for yourself? I've got to be honest and say I'm having one of those just now. When I sat down to put this podcast together, I'd planned to have a look at the poetry of Chiyo-ni. Do you know her work? I'd read some, but then our lovely poet friend Joshua St. Clair wrote to me to tell me about one of his favourite haiku. It was one of hers. I also saw the moon, and so I say goodbye to this world. I also saw the moon, and so I say goodbye to this world. And that was translated by Patricia Donegan and Yoshi Ishibashi, and it was in Chiyo-ni's Woman Haiku Master. And a word to the wise, if you ever see that book in a second-hand store at a reasonable price, grab it. It's very rare. Although it does look like it's being re-released in September, so that's good. I'll put a link to the Amazon page in the show notes and you can check it out. Anyway, back to Chiyo-ni. I started researching her, and of course, you know what happened. So many rabbit holes. Where do they all come from? So that's going to be a long-term project. While I think about her, while I research her, and head down all my rabbit holes, do let me know if you have any favourites. So having rather a lot of work to do for that topic, I thought, well, I'll put it to one side for a little while. But then, of course, I had nothing for today. My plans had gone awry. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to chill out and read you some poetry that I've been enjoying over the past month. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to have opinions. I can't promise that. But I do hope that as you listen to this, you're going to feel very relaxed, maybe stimulated to write a few poems yourself. Something like a late night jazz session in which the spoken word grounds, settles, and relaxes you. And me. So, here's some poetry I've been enjoying. And when you've listened, perhaps you'll share some that have the same effect on you. Bobbing and bobbing on the jazz club wall, the bassist's shadow. Bobbing and bobbing on the jazz club wall, the bassist's shadow. I thought we'd start with a senryū by Lenard D, who of course was on the podcast last week. And if you'd like to hear more work read in his absolutely delicious voice, do go back and have a listen if you haven't already. Goats on the roof of the chicken shack. Spring morning. Goats on the roof of the chicken shack. Spring morning. John Wills, The Haiku Anthology, edited by Cor Vandenheuvel. And that one just brings joy to my heart because it echoes a scene I see on one of my walks up the hills around here, where there's a set of goats that live with the chickens and quite often can be found on top of their shack. One day, I'm going to have to take you on one of my walks. Morning light, the cherry tree's shadow also blossoms. Morning light, the cherry tree's shadow also blossoms. Stanford M. Forrester from the Toddler's Chant. All over the water the blossoms spread, and amongst them a frog's eyes. All over the water the blossoms spread, and amongst them a frog's eyes. Tomiyasu Fusii, translated by Makoto Ueda from Modern Japanese Haiku, an anthology. And as I read that, I wondered, is it about cherry, apple, plum blossom floating through the air, landing in the pond, and spreading out in the way that blossoms do when they land on water? Or is it about water lilies moving about on the water, and in between the frog's eyes? Just that one frog, though. Beautiful. And a little bit longer than we're used to. Although, if you're into counting syllables, I think we're about 17. But it's so nice to see a poem with a bit of length and balance in that length, if you get what I mean. The flower opens to the butterfly. I open to spring. The flower opens to the butterfly. I open to spring. Jennifer Gurney, from the Poetry Pea Journal, 225. And that one resonates with me so much at the moment because as I look out on my garden, everything is beginning to bloom. The peonies, not quite overblown yet, geraniums, the lilac is on the way out, and so many other things are beginning to sprout and blossoms will come. Oh, and by the way, that reminds me, the journal's out. Check it out on the website or buy me a coffee. All proceeds support the work of the podcast, for which I will be eternally grateful. Forgotten temple, a yellow flower offers itself. Forgotten temple, a yellow flower offers itself. Stanford M. Forrester, from January, Sun, selected haiku, senryū, and small poems. Such a simple poem, but you get the impression that Stanford has sat there and thought about it for some time. Maybe it's come out of one of his meditations. Beautiful. Climbing the mountain too. Wild blueberries. Climbing the mountain too. Wild blueberries. Stanford M. Forrester, from the Toddler's Chant. I read a book. Somewhere within the book, an insect chirps. I read a book. Somewhere within the book, an insect chirps. Tomiyasu Fusii, translated by Makoto Ueda, from Modern Japanese Haiku, an anthology. Autumn colors. The scarecrow's coat, nicer than mine. Autumn colors. The scarecrow's coat, nicer than mine. Stanford M. Forrester, The Toddler's Chant. Thunderheads, this whim to storm the earth. Thunderheads, this whim to storm the earth. Rupert Anand. From Little Marbles Anthology, Poetry P Press 2024. And a gentle reminder to you to make sure you're on the mailing list, because if you're not, you won't get the invite to submit for this year's anthology. Autumn's loose ends. I let the wardrobe be. Autumn's loose ends. I let the wardrobe be. That's by Lakshmi Iyer. From Upside Down, Red Moon's Anthology 2023. Snow Stories. The Scattered Commas of Maple Seeds. Snow Stories. The Scattered Commas of Maple Seeds. Debbie Strange, Stardust Haiku 24, 2018. I love a haiku that makes me see something in a slightly different light. Winter Rain. A list of side effects, 2 pages long. Winter Rain. A list of side effects, 2 pages long. Brian Rickett, Upside Down, Red Moon Anthology 2023. If ever there was a seasonal reference, a kigo, that created or evoked an emotion which bled through to the rest of the poem, this is it, don't you think? So appropriate. Winter Rain sets up the tone for the rest of the poem. Winter Rain, a list of side effects, 2 pages long. After the heavy snowfall, the pine tree caws. After the heavy snowfall, the pine tree caws. George Swede from his book The Way a Poem Emerges. And it's a great example, I think, of that one-line haiku. The pauses can go in different ways. You can read it in a circular fashion too. So the original is, after the heavy snowfall, the pine tree caws. But you could start caws after the heavy snowfall, the pine tree. Or the pine tree caws after the heavy snowfall. And round you can go with it. An icicle, the moon drifting through it. An icicle, the moon drifting through it. Another one-line haiku, and you can play with the way it goes. Drifting through it, an icicle, the moon. The moon drifting through it, an icicle. Mathieu Allard, The Haiku Anthology, edited by Cor van den Heuvel. After the snowfall, deep in the pine forest, the sound of an axe. After the snowfall, deep in the pine forest, the sound of an axe. Lorraine Ellis Haar, The Haiku Anthology, edited by Cor van den Heuvel. Again, a really great kigo after the snowfall, because those of us who live with snow for certain parts of the year, and pine forests come to that, will know that as you trudge through the snow, and I choose that word carefully because you know how I feel about snow, as you trudge through the snow, through the pine forest, any sound you hear, like the axe, like the caw of a crow, are so much louder within that silent atmosphere. And sticking with the snow, my footsteps hardly make a sound in the snow. I wonder how I'll be remembered. My footsteps hardly make a sound in the snow. I wonder how I'll be remembered. A Tanka by Kimberly Kuchar from the Poetry P Journal 225. So we started today with some jazz, and we'll finish with some. And it's again by Lenard D. Watching the woman who pulled back her braids, summer sunset jazz. Watching the woman who pulled back her braids, summer sunset jazz. I don't think I do justice to Lenard's work. But like I said before, if you'd like to hear his voice, do go back to last week's episode. And just to let you know, next week, because of a bit of a last-minute emergency, I can't record a podcast. So join me in a couple of weeks for more haiku. Maybe some senryū too. We'll see. Now your mission, should you choose to do it, let me know your favourite Chiyo-ni poems. Send me any other poems that are your favourites, but by other people, please. Contemporary or ancient, it would be really nice to know what turns you on poetry-wise. Do consider buying Journal 225 if you're not an ICE or a Busan member, because of course they get the journal slipped into their emails automatically. And maybe you'd consider being a member. Buy us a coffee, or if you can't do that, please spread the word about us on your social media. Thank you so much. Bye-bye for now, and until we meet again, keep writing. And don't forget, there are links in the show notes. Do go and check them out. Ciao!